I never expected to share this story with anyone, but after what happened to me on August 10th, just 8 days ago, I cannot remain silent. My name is Victoria Ashford and I am 52 years old. For the past 23 years, I have built a successful real estate empire here in Dallas, Texas. But none of that matters now. Nothing I thought I knew about life, about success, about what truly counts in this world matters after what Jesus Christ showed me during the most terrifying and beautiful 18 minutes of my existence. I was clinically dead for 18 minutes on that hospital floor. And in those 18 minutes I witnessed something that has shaken me to my very core. For many years, I believed that faith was measured by appearances, by how often I attended church, by the size of my tithe, by the respect others gave me when I spoke about God. I had convinced myself that as long as I maintained these practices I was safe. My identity as a Christian seemed solid because I could point to the evidence. Financial success I attributed to God, a family that looked blessed, and a reputation as a devoted believer. But when my soul was separated from my body, I realized all those outward measures were like sand slipping through my fingers. In that moment I stood before the truth. Faith is not a checklist. Faith is a living connection with Jesus Christ. A surrender of the heart, not a performance for the world. During those 18 minutes, Jesus showed me not a vision of gold or grandeur, but of my own heart. He revealed how shallow my devotion had become, how easily I had confused religious activity with spiritual intimacy. I thought I was drawing closer to him, but in reality I was circling around myself. My pride, my achievements, my sense of worthiness. The shock of that realization struck me harder than the accident itself. I saw how I had prayed without listening, how I had given without loving, how I had worshipped without surrender. Faith, I learned, is not about adding God to my plans. It is about letting him rewrite the story of my life. Those 18 minutes became the mirror I could not avoid. They forced me to see that faith is either real or it is empty. And though I had called myself faithful, my heart had been hollow. The mercy of Christ was that he did not expose this truth to condemn me, but to awaken me. He allowed me to see that true faith is not built on routine, but on a daily yielding of self. This is why I must speak now. Not because I wish to tell a dramatic story, but because I know countless others are living the same deception I once lived. We equate faith with activity, but activity without surrender leads only to exhaustion and emptiness. What Jesus showed me in those 18 minutes is that real faith is not something to display. It is something that transforms. When I returned to my body, the weight of what I had seen pressed on me with a force I cannot fully explain. My heartbeat was fragile, yet my spirit was on fire. It was as if God had stripped away every layer of pretense, leaving me with only the truth. Faith without surrender is not faith at all. 4 days after the accident, I could not stop replaying the words of Jesus in my mind. They echoed like a living flame. Faith is not a show, it is a surrender. Faith is not a habit, it is a relationship. Faith is not your effort, it is my grace alive in you. These words undid everything I thought I understood about my walk with him. I began to see how blind I had been. My prayers had often been requests rather than communion. My service had been motivated by recognition rather than love. Even my gratitude had been shallow, tied more to blessings received than to the giver himself. True faith, I realized, is not measured by outward blessings but by inward transformation. It is about letting Christ shape my desires, my thoughts, my actions until his will becomes my own. As these realizations sank in, I felt both grief and hope. Grief because I saw how many years I had wasted, living a half-truth that deceived not only me but also those around me. Hope because Jesus had given me another chance, not only to live but to live differently. He had revealed my emptiness not to destroy me but to call me into fullness. That is the paradox of faith. It begins where self ends. I had built an empire, yet in the eyes of eternity I had built nothing. I had gained applause, yet before heaven, I had remained poor in spirit. And it was there in that emptiness, that Christ's words became the seed of new life. Faith, I now understood, is not about proving myself worthy of God but about admitting that I am not, and allowing his mercy to cover me. It is not about controlling outcomes but about trusting that even in loss, his love is enough. It is not about being admired as spiritual but about being authentic before the one who sees all. I share this because I know there are many who are still caught in the same cycle I once was, performing faith rather than living it. My story is not unique. It is a mirror for anyone who thinks success equals salvation, or ritual equals relationship. Jesus showed me that real faith is not an achievement. It is a surrender that transforms everything. As the days passed, the lessons of my near-death encounter began to settle deeper into my spirit. What once felt like a shocking interruption was now becoming a steady call to transformation. I realized that faith is not only about acknowledging the truth but about living it daily. To know that Jesus is Lord is one thing. To let Him truly reign in every choice, thought, and desire is something far more costly, and far more beautiful. I started to revisit my past not with condemnation but with clarity. I saw how often I had placed my trust in wealth instead of God. I remembered countless moments when I measured my worth by achievements rather than by His love. And yet, in those 18 minutes, Jesus made it clear. He had not abandoned me in my blindness. His mercy had followed me all along, waiting for me to open my heart. That truth overwhelmed me. How often had I spoken about grace, yet never fully relied on it? How often had I taught others about faith, while secretly fearing that I could not let go of control? The contradiction pierced me. But instead of despair, I felt an invitation. An invitation to exchange my false security for the true rest that only comes from surrender. Each morning now I pray differently. Not for more blessings but for a heart that stays close to His. I no longer see prayer as a list of requests, but as a moment of alignment. A way of saying, Lord, shape me today. Strip away what keeps me from You. Fill me with what draws me closer. And with every prayer I sense something shifting. Faith is not about perfection but about direction. It is not about avoiding failure but about returning to Jesus every time I stumble. I know there are many who, like me, have lived in the illusion of control, thinking that outward success guarantees spiritual safety. But the truth is this: without surrender, faith remains incomplete. Without love, faith becomes empty. And without Jesus at the center, faith turns into nothing more than a performance. This is why I share my story, not to draw attention to myself, but to remind you that the same mercy that found me is reaching for you right now. You don't have to wait for tragedy or crisis to awaken your heart. You can choose today to step into the kind of faith that transforms everything. And so, I want to ask you, will you take this invitation? Will you open your heart to Jesus in a new way? If this message has stirred something in you, I encourage you to leave a comment below. Not for me but as a declaration of faith. Write, Lord, I trust You. Cover me with Your protection. May Your words become the first step toward the shelter of His presence. The more I leaned into this new understanding of faith, the more I realized how fragile my old foundations had been. For years I had confused activity with devotion, outward respect with inward transformation. Now Jesus was teaching me that faith is not about building an image of strength, but about confessing weakness and allowing Him to be my strength. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed by regret. I thought of my family, my community, and the women I had once led in prayer groups. How many of them had I unknowingly misled? How many times had my pride disguised itself as wisdom, and my performance as spirituality? These thoughts pierced me, but each time I sensed the voice of Jesus reminding me, My grace is sufficient. What I reveal I can redeem. What I expose I can heal. It struck me then that faith is not a monument to our success. It is a daily posture of humility. Each day begins with a choice. Will I cling to my old ways of control, or will I surrender to the One who holds eternity in His hands? True faith is built not in a single dramatic moment but in countless unseen acts of trust. Choosing to forgive when bitterness feels easier, choosing to pray when silence seems louder, choosing to believe when circumstances seem impossible. The more I practiced this, the more I realized how simple and yet how radical faith truly is. It is not about doing more for God. It is about being more with God. It is not about striving to earn His love. It is about resting in the love He has already given. And from that place of rest, transformation flows naturally. I began to see small changes. My conversations shifted. Where once I would boast about my accomplishments, now I found myself listening more, asking others how their hearts were, not just their careers. Where once I carried an air of superiority, now I felt a tenderness toward the brokenness in others, because I had come face to face with my own brokenness. Faith, I realized, is never meant to end with us. It is a gift to be shared, a light to be carried into dark places. My testimony is not just about what happened in those 18 minutes. It is about how those minutes now shape every hour of my life. I cannot remain silent because silence would mean letting others continue in the same deception that nearly cost me eternity. And so I speak not as a teacher standing above, but as a sister walking beside you. We are all in need of grace. We are all called to the same surrender. And we are all invited to the same hope, that Christ's love is enough to carry us, change us, and prepare us for his return. As my journey of renewal continued, I began to understand why Jesus had given me back my breath, my heartbeat, and my days. It was not simply so that I could enjoy more time on earth, but so that I could use that time to awaken others. The gift of life was not returned to me for comfort but for mission. In those 18 minutes of eternity, I saw how thin the veil is between this world and the next. I understood that faith is not something we can postpone until tomorrow because tomorrow is not promised. The urgency of Christ's message still burns in my soul. I am coming soon. Be ready not in appearance but in heart. Those words are not only for me, they are for all who call themselves believers. I began to pray not just for my family, but for the countless souls still living as I once did. Busy, successful, respected, yet spiritually asleep. I saw how easy it is to be deceived by outward blessings and how dangerous it is to equate material prosperity with spiritual maturity. Jesus showed me that true wealth is found in a surrendered heart, true honor is found in humility, and true readiness is found in daily obedience. This realization has changed everything for me. I no longer measure my days by profits or accomplishments, but by how much room I give Christ to live through me. I no longer see people as opportunities or obstacles, but as souls deeply loved by God, each one in need of his mercy. My faith is no longer about maintaining an image, but about cultivating intimacy with him who gave his life for mine. And now I turn this message to you. Perhaps you have been faithful in outward ways, yet you sense a hollowness inside. Perhaps you pray but your heart feels distant. Perhaps you serve but your motives are tangled. I know this feeling because I lived it. But I also know the freedom of surrender, the peace that comes when you stop striving to prove your worth and simply rest in his love. If you hear anything in my story, let it be this. Do not wait. Do not assume you are ready simply because you look the part. Examine your heart honestly before the Lord. Lay down your pride, your fears, your idols, and let Jesus be the center. He is not calling us to religion but to relationship. Not to performance but to transformation. Not to self-reliance but to surrender. Friend, if this message has touched you, I invite you to take a step of faith right now. Write in the comments below a simple prayer. Lord Jesus, I surrender to you. Cover me with your mercy and prepare me for your return. May this be the moment your faith moves from ritual to reality, from habit to holiness, from yourself to Christ. And may the God who awakened me awaken you as well.